All right, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Juniker Jewelry on Highland Colony. Engagement rings, wedding rings, bracelets, necklaces, the best selection of jewelry. Juniker Jewelry. Highland Colony in Madison, about a mile from where we are right now. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone. We want to welcome in Hail State insider Steve Robertson. His new book, Alpha Dogs. You can find it for sale at the All Lifestyle Shop in the township. Alpha Dogs, new book by Steve Robertson. You can find that book for Christmas at the All Lifestyle Shop in Ridgeland. And Steve will be there a week from today signing books. Steve joins us on the Coors Light guest line. And, Steve, now that we've been able to kind of assess where the Mississippi State football program is, I think it's more of a rebuild. And they're going to have to basically knock it down on offense. And for the most part, go out and accumulate probably 70, 80% of the personnel needs to be tweaked and a little bit different and better. Where are you on that as far as halfway through this season?
Well, I think that's a fair assessment. I think when you begin to look at the wide receiver talent at Mississippi State, it is apparent, at this point that they were not prepared to run this scheme. And a lot of that is kind of the byproduct of, missing spring practice and a lot of the summer workouts. And, a lot of schools are kind of in the same situation. And one of the things that we were told is, it's a pretty easy scheme to pick up, that they'll be okay. But, we said this after the LSU win that, LSU's called DBU for a reason, but they're in a rebuild year as well. And Mississippi State won that game with some receivers that not a lot of schools recruited. And some of those chickens have kind of come home to roost.
I think that were they fooled on some recruiting classes under Moorhead? This sophomore and junior class, I know they like some of the freshman pieces. There's some pieces in the sophomore and junior class, but all in all, were there too many misses the last couple of years? Is that where this is going?
Well, I think the 2020 class has some really interesting and intriguing pieces. Obviously, with Jaquavius Marks and Will Rogers and Malik Keith and Dylan Johnson and many others. But that 2019 class has already had a handful of guys already kind of leave the program, and I'm actually pulling that list up here right now. You go ahead and run the thing down. DeMonte Russell has not played. He was in that, horrific car accident. Jerry Jones has transferred. Garrett Schrader's in the portal. King Ani is a guy that I expect to be in the portal. I don't know that he plays here. Javonte Payton has done some good things as a JUCO guy. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come back next year. Kareem Walker is a guy that is in the portal and never played a meaningful snap for Mississippi State. Quentin Torbor has done next to nothing at Mississippi State. J.P. Purvis, also in a horrific car accident, played a little bit last week and looks to be getting up to speed. Nick Pendley also in the portal. Keziah Pruitt has not seen the field. And then Brevin Jones transferred to Illinois. So you look at that 2019 class and you begin to think, okay, the gap between the veteran guys like a Kobe Jones and a Marquis Spencer and Errol Thompson and then this 2020 class has actually widened a little bit. Those are the guys you're playing with.
All right, so that 2019 class was top 25, top 30 with all the guys that you just went over that have left for whatever reason or not playing. I would have to believe that thing would drop in the 50s or 60s, Steve. If you
on signing day it was 24, but when you start backing out some of those guys, you begin to look at the fact that there hasn't been a major impact by a lot of those guys. Of course, Charles Cross, five-star guy, we expect him to have a great career at Mississippi State, and Nathan Pickering's a guy that's been in the mix of things. Brandon Cunningham started last week for the first time at right tackle. He finds out on Thursday he's a starting right tackle, had never played it down at right tackle in his entire life, and so, you got some guys in there that have made some minimal contributions, but, many of these junior college guys that were signed, expected to be plug and play, really haven't done anything.
That sounds like almost a total rebuild to me.
Yeah, I think when you get down to it, you begin to get honest with yourself about this, is that, number one, I think a lot of Mississippi State folks kind of deluded themselves a little bit into the talent level, especially on the offensive end. And that's what I think Mike Leach, if you want to give him some credit for recruiting this year, is he goes out and he gets Daniel Greek and Sawyer Robertson and then Teddy Knox and Malik Neighbors, Jacoby Moore and Brandon Buckhalter. And so there certainly is a concerted effort to upgrade at the skill positions. And it'll be interesting to see what Jacques Hunter does out of Neshoba Central. You know, is he a guy that can come in and play running back? I actually like him better on defense. I think he could ultimately grow into a linebacker kind of similar to Aaron Brule. But, you know, this is a class. You put a good class together, and it's potentially a top 25 class, and you begin to stack these classes, and then that makes the rebuild that much easier.
I made the argument earlier that Matt Luke left Ole Miss in much better shape than Joe Moorhead.
I certainly think on the offensive end they did, you know, because you look at Jerry and Ely, and I think John Rice Plumlee's a little bit underutilized, but he's an explosive player. But, yeah, there's some interesting skill at Ole Miss. I mean, Jonathan Mingo's a guy that maybe hadn't reached his potential just yet. But, I think in many respects they were kind of a year ahead because of how well they did in state with that 2019 signing class.
Patience is not something that you can really sell any fan base. Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds Show, Boneyard Podcast, genespage.com. His new book, Alpha Dogs, is all over the state of Mississippi. You can find that at the All Lifestyle Shop in Ridgeland in the township. I think Joe Moorhead, Tim Lukabu, Charles Huff, Luke Getsy, I mean, it was just a massive letdown at several positions where there were big swing and misses, Steve. And it will now come back to haunt Leach and Arnett. And this is probably another, I think you're talking midway through his third year, Steve.
Well, I certainly hope it doesn't take that long. I do think they'll take some steps forward next year. And I think a lot of it is kind of predicated, too, on the fact that offensive line play has been so sketchy. I mean, you look at the fact, Cole Smith's a transfer, but, he's limited position-wise to just play center. And then he had some struggles. They put James Jackson at center, and then James struggled to call the protections. And so, you had people kind of running loose. Anytime the defensive line made an adjustment there, James Jackson just – and listen, you're asking him to do something you didn't recruit him to do. I mean, he was recruited to play defensive line, and then he bounced back and forth last year during the Tutorgate stuff from defensive tackle to interior offensive line. And so you're asking some guys to do some things that maybe they're not quite as comfortable, and that's part of life. But at the same time, too, it makes it very difficult in the SEC when you've got guys that have not had the continuity and an opportunity to build chemistry. And that's what you're seeing on the offensive line right now.
Is there any question to you that he'll get 3 years?
Oh, there's no question. No, there's no question at all. And I'm still remain optimistic. I know there are a lot of fans out there because, people like the old adage says, people don't care about the labor pangs, just show them the baby. Mississippi State fans just want to win. They don't really care about all your struggles. They don't care about your recruiting woes or talent you inherited. I mean, they're plopping down, a nice chunk of change to buy premium tickets, and they expect to get a return on that investment.
Okay. I've got a minute, Blake? Steve Robertson, genespage.com, the Boneyard Podcast on the Out of Bounds Show. Do you think they'll maybe go a little more JUCO heavy?
I think that this class, for the most part, is in the bed. But, I could see them adding some older guys, possibly out of transfer portal or to JUCO ranks late. Okay.
Steve Robertson, Alpha Dogs. The new book is out. And Steve has been on a heck of a whirlwind tour. He'll be at the All Lifestyle Shop next Thursday signing Alpha Dog books. And, Steve, appreciate your time. Take care, okay?
Take care, brother.
Steve Robertson, the Boneyard Podcast, genespage.com. Too many misses by Moorhead. Mullen could get away with it. There are some coaches that can. Most can't. That's just the way it is, right? Dan could miss and still make it work. Lukabu, Getsy, Huff, Goose Eggs. Live in the Bank Plus studio. SEC Insider Hit next.